Are you ready to go around the world? Sit back, relax, and buckle your seatbelt as we take off for an adventure. It's jet-lag free but filled full of fun and travel insights. The only thing you'll need to pack is a sense of humor. Time for the award-winning travel show, Around the World.
Well, greetings, Globetrotters and armchair travelers. Another edition of Around the World. The beautiful Rebecca Brand is on board in the co-pilot seat. Or maybe you're just in kind of the luxury seat here on our new airplane.
I know, we've got a new airplane to
It's
ride.
smaller, it's faster.
It's our first ride.
And we're going to get to go to some amazing places today and with some incredible people. We've got a great show lined up for you. First stop, well, what's big on the news everywhere, of course, is what's happening in Hawaii on the Big Island. You know, you've been hearing about this incredible volcanic eruption that's created fissures that haven't been seen before, burning forests, ruining houses.
And earthquakes are happening there.
They're having earthquakes.
2,000 people at least have been evacuated, and they can't breathe. The smoke is noxious.
Yep, but of course that's down in the Puna side of the Big Island of Hawaii. And the Big Island is really big, and we're going to go to the other side, the Kohala Coast, where most tourists and visitors go. That's right. From Kona all the way up to Hawaii, for that matter. We're going to go to the Mauna Lani to a great guy. Larry Stone is going to tell us.
Is he staying at the Mauna Lani?
He's at the Mauna Lani. He's going to give us an on-the-spot report of what's happening and what it's like right now.
Tell people who Larry is.
Larry Stone owns, as a restaurateur, has fabulous restaurants in the West, including the Beachside in Goleta. He's got Chuck's on State Street. He's got Chuck's Waterfront Grill in Endless Summer.
And it has a very Hawaii feel to it.
Yeah, he does. And then he's got the Pioneer Inn up in Sun Valley.
I don't know about that one.
So,
wow.
But we're not going to be talking restaurants with Larry. We're going to be talking about
the Hawaii
volcanic ash.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I don't know how bad it is.
He's so nice. I've met Larry a few times.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I think that they might even have a charitable event for all the victims of this fire. I think they're going to have Johnny Ash perform.
Oh, stop it.
Stop that. That's not funny.
Fun of a disaster.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to say that anymore.
Arthur.
Okay. Then after that, we're going to go. One of our favorite contributors to Around the World is Max Hartshorne. He is the owner and editor of GoNomad.com. They just came up with a great story, by the way, about Santa Barbara.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really, really good. And they always have wonderful travel stories and articles and tips. Well, Max is going to be taking us to somewhere in our own backyard. He's going to take us to San Mateo. He says...
Okay,
there's more than just silicon in San Mateo. So we're going to find out what to do up in that part of the world. Then after Max, we're going to switch gears. We're going to go camping and find out how to camp and eat well. Because most people just think camping means s'mores.
I will jump into this guest and this conversation because I love camping and I love cooking on a campfire because then you really feel like a pioneer. And if you can make it on your campfire, you really are proud of yourself because you have to start from scratch. And that is the funnest thing in the world to do is cook when you're camping. So I can't wait for this portion with Laura.
Laura Bashars is going to be sharing with us some great tips about what to take camping, the kind of equipment, and how to...
A lot of packing to do when you do all that.
How to do it right and make it efficient. Then, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're going to have Rick Steves' son, Andy Steves, who's just come out with the second edition of his Europe book. This is a great book. I was reading it last night, kind of just getting a basic idea of places I'm going to this summer. And I read about Prague and I read about Budapest. And he's got an inside scoop of where to go and what to do that goes beyond the normal websites, goes beyond the normal travel guides. It's kind of like where the insiders go, where the locals go, and where the millennials go, because he's a millennial. And you know, it's a different kind of traveler than the baby boomer.
My kids,
so we're going to find out a lot about that. And then our very own Erik Davis is going to be in studio. He's going to tell us about his trip. He just came back from Vienna and the Austrian Lake District in Austria. Can't wait to hear about that because it sounds beautiful. And
does he have pictures?
We got pictures. We got a lot of stuff going on. We got that and much more in this edition of Around the World. But first, it's time for travel news. And travel news this year, as I said, is all about Hawaii. It's we're going to go live to the Big Island of Hawaii. I'm going to dial them up right now. As a lot of people know, we've had this incredible volcanic issue going on. A lot of people have been freaking out because
it changes the topography of Hawaii or any place whenever the flow happens.
Yeah.
Isn't that island is actually growing with the lava flow that's been going
Yeah. All right, we're going to the phones, and we're going to try and get Larry Stone, who's on the Big Island of Hawaii. Hopefully lava hasn't caught up with him yet. And just, it's the magic of, this is live TV almost, so we're just hoping for the best. Let's hope he answers the phone.
Caller. Hello,
Larry,
caller.
Larry, pick up the phone.
Caller, are you on the line?
There he is. Is that Larry Stone?
Hey, Nipper, aloha.
Aloha, Larry Stone, live on the Big Island of Hawaii, which is getting bigger by the minute, as we understand. How is it out there right now, Larry, with all the volcanic eruptions and earthquakes? Are you safe? Are you sound?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of considerations. And the other day when the earthquake came, my wife felt the first one, and then I was sitting on a lanai at Montalani, and it was rolling, and I didn't feel, there was a huge danger, but it was pretty strong. It was 6.9.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That's the only thing we've really felt here, because we're on the west side of the island, and most of the activity is on the extreme east side, south of Hilo.
Right, and that's about 100 miles from where you are, so it's a fairly distant location.
Quite a ways, and then with the mountain in between, the whole weather patterns are different. So, over there, they get the trades and the rain more, and now they're getting more of the activity that comes out of the volcano.
A lot of people have been concerned about the quality of the air and saying that you've got this sulfur in the air and ammonia and
there is sometimes right near the volcano. There's the sulfur and the sulfuric acid in the air, but what today in the local paper, because I had read both the papers today, there was a quote from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, the chairman of the atmospheric science department, and he does VOG measurement and prediction, said the levels of VOG being seen on Hawaiian Island, on the Big Island, are nothing out of the ordinary, except that the emissions are distributed across 3 vent areas. So those vents that have opened up are giving a different play than they were before. And he said there's not really that much more VOG being emitted by the volcano than previously. Maybe it's 10%.
Wow, that's good news, because that's not what we hear in the news over here. I've heard differently, but I'm happy to hear from the horse's mouth, because you're there, you know it. And he's going to...
Yeah. So I actually have lived in Hawaii before, and then I've been coming to this area for a long, long time. And I'm at Montalani, which is south of Mauna Kea, and it's about 30 miles on the coast north of the town of Kona. Kona has a different weather situation than here, and what we look forward to here are the normal trade winds, which are northeast trades, which keep the VOG from coming from the volcano up this way. It usually blows it back towards Kona or south of Kona. So right now the trade winds have been kind of off and on, and the prediction in the paper today says they're going to come back today. So it's the air quality right now. It's not a blue sky right this minute, but it was earlier, and it comes and goes with the wind.
How's the volume of the lava coming out of that crater? Is it getting worse? Is it stabilizing, or the rate of flow is the same, or what's going on?
What happened was there was a huge drop in the crater, and where it was coming out originally, and that whole flow went into fissures that went all over some of the old networks, and those, I think it's subsided now some. From what the paper says, because I'm not going over there to see, but the people there's still like 1,500, 2,000 people affected, but it's by Pahoa, if you remember where that is, Nipper.
Right. Hey,
south of Hilo.
Yeah. Larry, I understand that for visitors that are coming over, it's a great time to come to the Big Island, because it's probably not quite as crowded, because people have thought that maybe it's not a good place to go, but it's still a great place to go, isn't it?
Yeah, this time of year, that's one reason I come over in May. It's usually less crowded, and there's more, just less people on the beach and stuff like that. But Hawaii in general, the amount of landings have increased here 60% in the last year on the Big Island.
And I understand, too, that if you do go to Hawaii and you want to see the volcano, you can still take the helicopter tour and fly right over it and look at it without having to be near it.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that.
Really?
I would probably prefer that over driving.
They're busy now.
All right, and by the way, before we say goodbye, Larry, we just want to mention that people who are coming to Santa Barbara, you have some of the best restaurants in Southern California, for that matter, including the Beachside, which is open. Contrary to popular belief, it's the happening spot right now, and soon the beach itself will be open over there. Is that right?
Yeah, we're waiting for that. Okay, it should happen any day. The water quality has been better, and it should be improved to where the beach will open. But the park and the restaurant have been open all along, and we're going to have a really big Mother's Day crowd. And as soon as the word gets out about the park and the water being open to the public, then we'll try to get the word out. But yeah, Beachside is alive and well, and at the Endless Summer, the other restaurant and the Waterfront Grill down at Chuck's on the Breakwater, we're doing well down there, and the summer's coming, and so appreciate
Endless summer here in Santa Barbara.
We can't wait to go. All right. Well, Larry, thank you so much for giving us that update from Hawaii. It's great to have our man on the spot, and we wish you a great vacation. Looking forward to seeing you back on the West Coast when you get here.
Oh, okay. If something drastic breaks, I'll give you a personal call.
Okay. Aloha.
Bye, Larry.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to be going with Max Hartshorne to San Mateo, California, our
I'm
own
from
backyard.
Santa Rosa, so that's very close to where I was born.
We'll be right back after these words.
It's pretty up there.
And we are back here on Around the World. I'm Arthur von Wiesenberger, the lovely Rebecca Brand in studio, who was just in Burbank shooting a series for Adult Swim.
Yeah, it's a clean channel. The name kind of throws people off, but it's a division of Cartoon Network, and the new show is called Dialing for Dollars.
Dialing for Dollars.
Yep.
Well,
and people win money.
Well, right now we're dialing for GoNomad.com because we have the owner and editor of Go Nomad, Max Hartshorne, joining us now. Hello, Max.
Hello, good to be with you, Arthur and Rebecca.
It's great to have you back on. You know, I was reading a little bit about Go Nomad, and I'm so impressed with, I didn't realize that you started in this business as a 23-year-old editor at the Portland Chronicle in Maine.
Wow.
That's right.
That's amazing. I mean, you know, and you're now, what, about 25 or 26?
That's right.
and you bought Go Nomad back in, what, 2002? Is that right?
2002, Yeah.
And it's become one of the go-to websites for travel information written by professional travel writers, and it's uncompromising in its views. I read one that Jill wrote recently about Santa Barbara. I was blown away by how great she got all the facts and information out there.
Excellent. Good
Really,
to hear that. Good to
really
hear
good.
that.
I mean, it's great when it's your own hometown and you
Then
can
you
kind
know.
of you know it,
Yeah.
and I go, wow, this is better
And
than
it's
anybody in
accurate.
town could write it.
And you're in the
Oh,
newspaper
nice to
business,
hear.
aren't
Yeah,
you?
we love Santa Barbara, and it's a great destination. And we're so glad that you guys came out of that terrible tragedy with a good story and some positive feelings about the future for Santa Barbara. It's a great city, and it deserves all the attention we can give it.
Well, it's
Thank you.
appreciated, and it's getting better all the time. And by the way, a number of those folks that was mentioned in the article, including Santa Barbara Inn and Santo Mezcal,
Yeah,
Carlos Slim's Bay,
great
they all
restaurant.
appreciated this story. I heard back from a number of them, and they said they really
Great.
thought it was great to see that in print. Anyway, you're doing more on California than we are. So today you're taking us to San Mateo, I understand.
Yeah, San Mateo County. I was out there in San Francisco for a business meeting, had some extra time, and thought, I want to do a story about this part of California that maybe isn't as well known, only because it's overshadowed by Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley, of course, everybody gets that's in the news all the time with Facebook. And like right now, we're on Facebook Live. Well, Facebook's in San Mateo County, right over the border in Palo Alto. But I was so impressed with there were so many really fun things to do and places to go and things to eat and enjoy in San Mateo, that big county right south of San Francisco.
Well, tell us
And,
the
I
highlights.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously the
like
best way to
what?
get to San Mateo, if you're coming from anywhere outside of California, is you fly into San Francisco, I assume, or you could fly into San Jose, I suppose.
We see it.
Yeah, you fly into South San Francisco where the airport is, and then you can start our trip. Now, what we did was we took a neat sort of a circular route. Our first stop was the little town of Pescadero, down on the coast, and Pescadero is famous for two things. It's got a really great goat cheese farm, a goat farm that people raise goats, and you can play with baby goats and eat delectable cheese and look at the beautiful views and enjoy there's nothing like baby goats, one-day-old goats to get you going and to make you inspired.
Wow.
That's awesome. How wonderful. And they have the goat cheese.
No, I guess that's not what goats say, do they?
They have the goat cheese, and they have beautiful scenery, and they learn all about how to make it. And then, of course, in Pescadero, there's also a wonderful place, sort of an institution since the 1890s, I think it was 1890s, is Duart's, the little seafood and bar restaurant right in the center of that small town, Pescadero. It's right along the coast, and I love the coast there. And right north of that, a little ways, is the famous beach, Mavericks, which has the biggest waves in the world.
The unbelievable surfing waves are. I mean, their killer waves are so big, but I know
They're
that
30 and 40 feet high, yeah. And right north of that, near Half Moon Bay, you see it's out about a half a mile. You actually can't see it really from the coast, but the surfing activities take place whenever the waves are right. And I guess in the past couple of years they haven't had the right waves, but they're thinking this year they're going to be back with 30 or 40 foot waves again, and that's Mavericks, a famous surf beach right off the coast of Half Moon Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And Half Moon Bay is also in San Mateo County?
It is, and Half Moon Bay has the Ritz-Carlton. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Arthur. You're a big wig like you. You probably go to places like the Ritz-Carlton now and then.
Do they have a hostel? Because that's where I was thinking about staying myself.
Yes, well, the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay is a really nice property. It's got beautiful golf courses all up along the coast, and it's got a great spa, and you can actually enjoy sitting outside of the Ritz-Carlton without even being a paying guest at the Ritz-Carlton. So you can enjoy a little bit of that elegance without necessarily the $1,000 a night.
Yeah, get a nice tea. Get a glass of Chardonnay.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful bay, right? It's a Half Moon Bay.
It's a gorgeous bay. And, another thing about Half Moon Bay is Sam's Chowder House, where I got to say, this lobster roll we had could have rivaled something I might have had in New Brunswick, Canada. It was just spectacular.
No kidding. I didn't know we had lobster rolls that were halfway decent compared to you guys on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, they must get the lobsters from here, but they do great chowders and ahi tuna and all kinds of different seafood, and it's a line out the door at Sam's Chowder House. But when we were there, it was slightly rainy, so we were able to get in without any kind of a wait. But that was another highlight of Half Moon Bay. And then, of course, I just love seeing the crabbers and seeing the boats at Pillar Point, the marina there. And it's just a real beautiful ocean. And then we switched gears, and we went inland to Woodside, which is another small little town right on the Skyline Trail, right along the center of San Mateo in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And we went to a place called Filio. I'm sorry, am I saying it right? Filoli.
Oh, Filoli, yeah, it's Filoli. I used to live in Woodside. I lived on Albion Way in Woodside, and you're talking about the Fioli mansion. Was originally their home. Yes, sure. I knew the Fioli.
Beautiful place.
Yeah.
650 acres of grounds and English gardens and a beautiful old house you could tour, and just the wonderful docents that take care of you and show you all around and sort of learn about these aristocrats and how they lived. And it's just a gorgeous place to walk around with peacocks. They have peacocks there. And again, it was a beautiful day when we were there. And then that also segued well into the winery at the Thomas Fogarty Winery in Woodside. They make great wines, and they have tasting room there.
Oh, really?
Enjoyed that quite a bit.
How fun. The wine tasting up there in San Mateo County.
Yeah,
I'd love to try that. Are they known for their Chardonnays, or what's their most popular varieties, Max?
You know, when I was there, we tasted a bunch of different ones, of Pinots and Chardonnay. No, I'm not sure if they have any specific one that they're
So they do the whole lineup. I love it. I want to bat through the whole lineup, Max. That sounds fabulous. I love that you can go wine tasting because California is so known for that. And in San Mateo County, they have that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure, it is. And, so San Mateo, again, it's got a lot of rural places. I found that Half Moon Bay is a great pumpkin producer. And around October, you go to Half Moon Bay, and they have a giant pumpkin parade and pumpkins all along the road on Route 1 there. And some really neat stuff to see as far as agriculture and that kind of thing in that Half Moon Bay area. But it's a big county, and we went a little bit further south, and we went to Redwood City, which is the capital of San Mateo County. Mm-hmm. And Redwood City is the city with the greatest climate. Accordingly, the climate is tested by the government as the best climate in the world.
I had no idea.
That's what it says.
It's not Santa Barbara? Oh, boy.
But does Redwood City have any redwoods?
I don't think there's any left. I think it's got Oracle, and it's got Electronic Arts, and it's got a lot of malls and a lot of neat little cafes and places to walk around, but it's definitely not very rural.
Yeah,
I think that the redwoods are long gone, unfortunately.
No, the redwoods are down by the coast, though, because you can still go to a redwood forest down by Santa Cruz, which is very close to San Mateo.
That's right. Now we're getting out of San Mateo County in Santa Cruz, but you are right, Rebecca. There are redwoods that you can enjoy, and same course of Mira Woods right across to San Francisco. Right. But another thing that they have in San Mateo, which I thought was pretty neat, was the Computer Museum. They have this huge museum all dedicated to computers. And this is a museum that's a real world-class museum because there's so much money there in Mountain View. They took over a company's building that looked like it was a giant company, and they must have gone out of business. So the Computer Museum is able to have just about anything they want in there, including some of the original ENIAC, the original computer that they helped in the first computer ever built in World War II, ENIAC. They actually have some parts of that there, along with some funny old big machines that run tapes and, old Commodore machines. And you just get the chance to really learn the history of computers and about data and about all those things that I'm interested in that Silicon Valley is all about. And it really starts from the very, very roots of abacuses up to the modern supercomputers.
I want to take my kids there, Max, because I think kids should see where this all comes from. They have no idea. We're older and we saw it all develop, but they didn't. So to see the huge advances, some of those computers are like a whole building big, just for the same amount of drive we could have on a phone these days. That's how they started.
I know. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. And the Dodd takes you around, really knows his stuff, and you start in one area where you're really starting at the most basic 1940s, and it just goes by decade, and you see how things have moved along. And then when you leave the Computer Museum and you're right in Google's territory, you see all the Google bikes, see all the people driving around with the Google bikes, and all the buildings that are owned by Google.
And YouTube's home base is up there too, in San Bruno, home of YouTube.
That's right. YouTube is right there. It's the whole nut. And Facebook, of course, goes on and on and on. I just was stunned by how big Facebook was. They were driving along a highway, and it's just nothing but buildings, continuous buildings. And so that's also Facebook. And then you turn the corner and you see the giant thumbs up, which is where people get their picture taken in one hacker way in Facebook. Of course, that's always a fun little thing. And, so it's sort of like tourism for tech tourism, as it were. And it's become a big thing. People love doing that, seeing these buildings. Although there's not much, Google's pretty tight about, you can't really go in the buildings. They were sort of very nervous when I was taking pictures and looking around. They didn't want me to go inside and learn anything.
Wow. Well, Max, that's an amazing tour of San Mateo. If people want to know more about San Mateo, I bet they can find out about it on GoNomad.com, right?
Yeah, in fact, tomorrow there'll probably be an article coming out. I'm just finishing up now, so it's right on the tip of my tongue right now all about San Mateo, and it's a great destination. I'd recommend it. Even people who live in places like Santa Barbara, it's not that far away.
I appreciate
4
all the
hours,
great
that's
insights.
it.
This is
4
great
hours.
information, and you've inspired me to want to go up there and
Me
get
too.
my
I'm
picture
taking
with
my
the thumbs
kids.
up.
I'm taking my kids.
We're going to go see that in the museum. And appreciate you taking the time to join us today on Around the World, Max.
Okay, have a great day.
All
Rebecca
right.
and Arthur, thanks very much.
All the
Okay,
best.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Alrighty, I guess we're going to cool our jets for a moment, take a break, and when we come back, we're going to go camping with Laura Bashars. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on Around the World. And we're back here on Around the World. I'm Arthur von Wiesenberger, the lovely Rebecca Brand in studio on this jet flying across the world. We know there we were up in California. We're going to start to stay in the West because what can you do in the West that's more fun than anything? I'd say camping. Yeah, and especially as we're getting into this time of the year, it's a wonderful time to take the family out, enjoy the great outdoors, and there's something about the air and something about being in nature where it actually makes food taste better.
It sure does.
And I'm not a great chef out camping. I mean, I'm a s'mores and maybe a pasta and salad kind of guy. But after reading this book called The Camp and Cabin Cookbook, 100 Recipes to Prepare Wherever You Go by Laura Bashars, I've really gotten inspired to do some different kinds of cooking when I go outdoors now. This is a terrific hardcover book with all these beautiful photographs of things that you could do when you're out with the family and create an experience well beyond just being outdoors. Have you done that, by the way? Have you been out with the
Yes,
family? I bet you cook a lot.
My kids and I, Laura, I have to tell you, we would go to Yosemite, and the biggest joy was to start the campfire, and I would have lattes every morning on the campfire, and then we'd make the breakfast. But then sometimes, and Laura, I'm sure.
Well, let's bring Laura into the show because Laura Bashars is joining us by phone in San Diego, I believe. And how are you today, Laura?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You know, I've been reading through your book and drooling on every other page, so it's sort of sticky now. But I learned some essential things that are just practical as well as being delicious. And right from the very start, when you go camping, you prepare the ingredients and the various things you're bringing out in a very organized way. Maybe you can share with our audience, starting with just packing a cooler. How do you do it right? Because I sometimes throw stuff in the cooler and some of it's all melted or some of it gets overcooked, wet or soggy.
Food gets wet.
And there's ways to beat the system. What do you do?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is based on how long have we gone for. So when I did Yosemite, for example, we were there for an entire week. And that strategy is a lot different than a weekend getaway. And you have to really plan for the longer haul, especially because you're worried about things melting. You have to get more ice when you're in some remote places and things like that. So what we usually do is, even for a weekend getaway, you can either pack the heaviest things. I usually stick on the bottom because you don't want your vegetables to get crushed. And I always, as you saw in the cookbook, I love using my fresh produce, my fresh herbs, and just keeping it. That just tastes so much better when you're using fresh ingredients. And I do everything I can to preserve them as best as I can. Now, when I'm doing long haul type cooking, fresh doesn't necessarily last in a cooler in summer weather when you're camping, and you have to make some modifications there. And sometimes I use frozen vegetables because they're just as nutritious as fresh can be. But again, it's a different texture sometimes. And when you're doing longer term camping, you tend to put things like if I get the meats, I freeze them and I stick them for later in the week, maybe in the bottom of a cooler in a separate cooler. And there's different strategies depending on how long you're going to be gone for.
So they defrost slowly and they help keep your cooler cold. That's the trick.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of the great tips too is just freeze bottles of bottled water and use those as ice, and then you can drink them as they melt.
Correct. And, that's one thing we worry about here in California is staying cool and hydrated and being very water-wise. So it's a great idea. You take a jug of water, freeze it, it becomes ice block and drinking water later.
Wow. Now, there are certain pieces of equipment that are probably essential to go camping, but after reading your book, I got the sense that probably number one is a Dutch oven. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, Dutch oven. If you haven't cooked in a Dutch oven yet, I really recommend it. It's a lot of fun. You can make so many different things in a Dutch oven. And as I showed in the book, you go from breakfast to dessert. You can, there's a lot of myths about cooking in cast iron because we're talking about a cast iron Dutch oven, not the pretty French enamelware you have at home. Right. You don't want to stick that on your campfire on coals. But the cast iron becomes the cast iron Dutch oven becomes a small mini oven. So you can bake your cake, you can do stews, soups, all kinds of things.
Where do you find a campfire Dutch oven then? You're not going to find it at Williams-Sonoma, are you?
Amazon.com.
Exactly. You can get almost anything on Amazon. You can find them also at some sporting good places. I've seen them there too. I've seen them. I went to a restaurant supply place, and I'm like, I don't know what restaurants cook with a cast iron Dutch oven, but I even saw them there. They're actually more common than you think.
And very affordable. Cast iron is not an expensive type of.
And you put this Dutch oven on direct contact with the coals or with the fire, right?
Well, you're getting the Dutch oven has little feet. So if you can see some of the pictures in the book, the ones you want are the little feet, so it's actually raised above the coals.
I see.
But because if it's on direct coals and you might burn whatever it is you have. So you have to be careful about the amount of heat that's coming in from underneath. Because remember, cast iron, once it gets
so you put it on the coals. You don't. Let me ask you this. So you would put the Dutch oven on top of the coals. You wouldn't even need a grate. Is that what you're saying? You need a grate. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You don't need a grate. You don't need a grate. You take your fire pit. You're camping, or you're even in your fire. I stayed in a cabin that had a nice, beautiful fireplace. And we just put the coals in the Dutch oven right there, and we didn't need a grate or grill or anything. But you can do it on a grill, too. I'm just saying, you don't need one.
Now, one of the other things about camping outdoors is the equipment you need to, spatulas and wooden spoons and all that kind of stuff. You suggest putting that into a plastic container where you have all your utensils in one place, and that way they're not going to be scrambling trying to find them, which is a great idea. What about the other tools that you use, like seasonings? How do you deal with? You don't need a whole bottle of vinegar. You don't need a whole bag of salt.
Right.
So what's a good suggestion on that?
So again, depending on how often you camp, let's say you're doing a lot of stuff over the summer, you can even create your own little spice bin, and that way you're not constantly taking things from your kitchen and forgetting where you put it, which is what we were doing. So we ended up coming up with our own bins. But things like that are perishable and don't last that long, like the oils and things like that, then I usually transfer them to smaller bottles. Sometimes I can use an empty water bottle, one of those small water bottles like that, and I fill that up partially. Or even the kit size, the little mini kit size water bottles. Mm-hmm. You can always use that to use your liquids, because you really don't need to take your giant jug of olive oil or vinegar and things and take it with you. The other thing I do also when I'm camping specifically is if I know that I'm making a cake or something like that, you can mix all the dry ingredients and put those in Ziploc bags and label whatever recipe it is, and that way you know what ingredients you need to add to it.
By scratch? That's impressive.
Then you don't have to take a bag of flour, your baking soda, your spices, and you can mix all the dry ingredients in a resealable bag and then pack that, and then it makes camping a lot easier and baking even more fun.
Oh my goodness. So how do you calibrate the heat, though, on a cake? I would never even try that. I'd be scared to death. I'd burn on the outside and inside would be undercooked. I mean, how do you get the 350 degrees, or tell us the secret on that, Laura?
secret. Well, there are a lot of different methodologies and thinking of what's the best way to do it. And one of the ones that when it comes to baking especially, you don't want to estimate too little or too much because, like you said, it'll either be a soggy, undercooked mess or it'll be a burnt brick. So one of the techniques that I learned was, and I have that in the book, is it's like a little math equation. And you start with a 12-inch Dutch oven, which is a pretty decent size, but let's say a family of 4 would want a 12-inch Dutch oven. You take the diameter of your Dutch oven, which would be 12, and this is called the rule of threes, by the way. You take the diameter of your Dutch oven, we'll say 12, and you subtract 3, and that gives you 9. And that's the number of bricks or charcoals you will need underneath that Dutch oven. And then if you add 3 to the diameter, so that's 12 plus 3, that's 15, that goes on top. Now this is the standard temperature.
Well, that's great. That's in the book, and I'm definitely going to follow that because you know what you're talking about. That's fantastic, Laura.
We're talking with Laura Bashars, the author of the Camp and Cabin Cookbook. It's from Countryman Press. Hardcover book for $24.95 with great photography.
Incredible.
And just a beautiful book to take with you and a study as far as making camping a lot more tasty. Laura, we thank you very much for joining us today on Around the World. It's really great to talk with you, and I hope we'll get you back again.
Thank you for having me.
On the campgrounds. Okay. And I guess it's time for us to take a break, but before we take a break, I got to ask you a question because you know so much about camping. What do bears call campers in sleeping bags? Do you know?
Dessert.
Soft tacos. And with that, we'll take a break. We'll be right back after these intense jokes.
Okay, that's funny.
There have been 514 leap years since its creation in 45 BC. Over here at Around the World, we are so thankful that the Mayan calendar did not take that into account. So we will be here to give you amazing travel deals, luxurious destination ideas, and much, much more
And we're back here on Around the World. I'm Arthur von Wiesenberger, Rebecca Brand in studio. Thank you for watching us on AM 1290 KZSB as well as on TVSB, Channel 17. We're also streaming live on the web at www.atw.tv, the first place to go, even to visit the last place on Earth. And speaking of the last place and first place on Earth, this family is known to having gone everywhere in the world. You've heard of Rick Steves for many years. He actually performed out here on the West Coast not so long ago. Well, his son is a chip off the old block. I just finished taking a look at his new book, which is The Budgeter's Guide to Europe, and this is for this year. And I've got to tell you, I've learned more stuff about Europe that I thought I knew backwards and inside out. There's a whole nother Europe out there, and Andy Steves has got it, and he's joining us live on the phone right now. Hello, Andy.
Hey, Arthur. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Terrific to have you with us. And first of all, congratulations on a wonderful book, really handy. And I almost thought that guidebooks were kind of a thing of the past until I picked yours up and I started reading about places that you can't find this information on the web. It's like you've kind of delved into behind the scenes and insider stuff and just your personality of how you've tapped into what visitors want to see. But tell me your philosophy on travel.
Thanks for the kind words, Arthur. I appreciate it. My guidebook is called Andy Steves Europe, City Hopping on a Budget. And I wrote this guidebook, city hopping, being a key word, because I recognize that when people go to Europe today, they zip around from city to city thanks to budget airlines and overnight trains. And so I know that I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly which restaurant or which cool nightlife venue or what cocktail lounge is going to be the hottest at the very moment that you're there. What I've tried to do is teach people how to find those great places, how to make connections with the locals who will then know what's going on during your visit. I found that with my guidebook, it really answers the whole dilemma when it comes to traveling. You want to see as much as you can, but you also got to plug into the local culture. And I'm really passionate about that, so that's what I really built the book around.
I see. Now, I noticed that some people say you are the voice for the millennial traveler. What's the difference between the millennial traveler and us baby boomers travelers?
Well, I don't want to sound too full of myself here. There's plenty of great travel bloggers out there and some great Instagram travel inspiration pages. I love to follow as many as I can. What I like, I'm so fortunate given my background. I grew up traveling with my family every summer to Europe, and my dad taught me how to travel from a very early age, even to the point where he was putting me on the next metro car in Paris, tell me where to change and where to get off on the other end, and he was like, "All right, I'll see you later."
Wait, how old were you? How old were you when he put you on a metro?
8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Without a cell phone, I bet, too.
I don't think he ever let us out of his eyes, but he would definitely follow us down a wrong path, just so that we would learn how to read a map and how to use public transportation. And to a lot of people, that sounds extreme, but I got to tell you, in Paris, in Rome, in Barcelona, people are taking the metro, the buses, all around the city, sending their school kids to school or getting to work, coming back for siestas. Life really revolves around public transportation, and that's just one thing that Americans can benefit so much from, is to visit Europe, really get around how the locals get around. So to answer your question, how are we different as millennial travelers to my dad's and maybe the older generation? We have these supercomputers called smartphones in our pockets, and we can use data and Wi-Fi to make travel plans on the fly, benefit from the sharing economy like Airbnb and Uber, and really travel as efficient as possible these days. There's so much information out there, and it's all, we can find it all on our phone.
So what is the secret to finding out where the hottest nightclub is? Especially for the younger set. They want to find that out, and you're right. Those change every month or so. There could be something that's going on. So what would you tell a traveler?
Sure. So I assume that most people, if they're visiting a city for the first time in Europe, whether it's Rome or Berlin, most travelers visit for about 3 or 4 days. And so the kind of foundation of each chapter in my book is built around a recommended 3-day itinerary, where I encourage you to go to I share specific tips on how to skip the line into the key sites that I know you're going to want to see, like the Colosseum and the Vatican Museum there in Rome. So I recommend how to save as much time doing those things that you got to see, and then I connect you with some of my favorite locals. I recommend tours in each of my cities and local tour guides that help you get off the beaten path. On top of that, I really do like to talk about general neighborhoods, because every city across Europe is going through this gentrification cycle where poor, students and bohemian types used to live on the fringes of the city. Well, all of a sudden, the people that could afford to move to those cooler parts of town have now made the cost of living so expensive in those districts that the original cool people, we can call them the OGs, move farther outside of the city. And so that's happening constantly, and I really help my readers get a pulse on that, whether we're talking about Amsterdam or London.
Now, for example, I was looking, because I'm going to Prague and Budapest this summer. I've not been to either, and so I read your chapters on both. And you seem to have some tourist sites that you think are important, like the baths, which I assume is a big thing in Budapest, and the beer, which is a big thing in Prague. Do you have other favorite things on either of those two cities?
Well, I spent the last 6 years living in Prague, and I loved it. But I got to say, I have a little bit of buyer's regret. I wish I spent those 6 years in Budapest. Both are amazing cities. They're a lot of fun. You got some of the best beer in the world there in Prague. I'm partial to Pilsner Urquell. What I like to do is see the heart of the city, of course, but I like to find those parks. In each section of my book, I have a little call-out called Break a Sweat. And so I recommend different hikes, different parks that are good for running, or other opportunities to maybe bike in a safe neighborhood. I really like to stay fit while I'm traveling and get that exercise, and so Prague is full of these beautiful parks. Budapest, on the other hand, has all sorts of alternative sites. So when you think about Paris, it's like museums, churches, towers that you got to see. In Budapest, it's all about the ruin pubs, or a caving expedition, or the thermal hot spring baths, or going into a cave turns war hospital turns nuclear bunker underneath the Budapest castle.
Wow.
So that city is packed full of really cool things to see, and they're all active rather than just your classic museum sightseeing. So I'm jealous. Summer is a great time to go to both of those cities. If you're going to Budapest in August, if anybody's into the EDM scene, the big music festivals, Sziget. SVIGET festival is a great option for August in Budapest.
You're mentioning the caving. I understand there's a 4-hour cave exploration experience that you can do in Budapest. Is that something that anyone can do, or does it require someone who's extra small or extra fit?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've brought probably about 1,500 backpackers through Budapest over the last 8 years, and that's kind of we take them on this caving expedition. We have not had any serious issues ever, knock on wood. It is not recommended for those who are claustrophobic, and let me tell you, I'm 6'2" and about 195 pounds. I would not want to be much bigger than me going through those places. But you know, it's a really fun, cool experience, and you have a great guide who can make it all approachable and possible for anybody to get through.
And you know, I have to say something, Andy. Your book size is so perfect to fit in a backpack, to take on the plane, to read on the plane. I love the way they're color coded, so they're easy to find. Oh yeah, it was a green section I was looking at, you know, and it's just so easy to use your book. So it's in the style of kind of a photos, but you're so up to date with the way you've done this. So I just applaud you for doing the work to get this in a book like this for the new traveler, the millennial traveler, or ones that need to know your tips rather than look at an old guidebook that's not going to do you any help. So
right.
I love it.
Conveniently enough, I know I wear, you know, pants for guys, but it can fit in my back pocket. I put in a million steps in 5 months in Europe, updating the book for this next edition that just came out, and it was taking up my left back pocket for those 5 months. So it was really convenient that way.
Wow. We're talking with Andy Steves. He's the author of the book Andy Steves Europe, City Hopping on a Budget. It sells for $19.99. It is from Avalon Travel, which is part of Hatchet. Beautiful book, and I'm sure it's available at all good bookstores as well, of course, Amazon and other online stores. And if anyone wants to follow you on the web or get in touch with you, do you have a web or URL that they can go to?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Andy Steves Travel. That's Instagram at Andy Steves Travel. I'm still learning how to use that platform, but otherwise you can look me up on Facebook, Andy Steves, to keep up on all the latest things, travel, budget travel, and inspiration.
Terrific. Well, we sure appreciate it. We hope we'll have you on again. It really is great to talk with you, and congratulations on the great book.
Thanks so much. Happy travels, guys.
Alrighty,
and enjoy your time over in Europe.
Thank you. We sure will.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to move along to Vienna and the Austrian Alps with Erik. I can't wait to hear about what Erik Davis has to say.
Here.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these words. Well, I must say, that was such an exciting moment there with Andy Steves. And, you know, we're traveling all over the place. I'm not even getting jet lag and we're in our new plane. Maybe that's because we've got anti-jet lag medication in here. I'm not sure
Well,
what
it's
is.
the air,
But,
the interior air that you have.
Something is
in your
good.
jet,
Something
Arthur.
is good. But you know what?
Extra oxygen or something.
We've got such an exciting segment coming up next. I can't wait because I love Austria and I love Vienna and I love the Lake District. And we're going to get all that right now from a guy who makes all this happen right here at TVSB.
With an exciting guy.
Erik Davis is joining us. Oh, Erik.
Hello. How are you?
Wie geht's? Alles gut.
I love your new airplane, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Feels very comfortable to be in here.
And by the way, I must say you dressed appropriately for this flight. Austrian?
Yes, yes, it is.
It looks actually very lightweight and modern. It's not.
Well, it was neat. When we'll get to that, but the Lake District of Austria, we came across these small little towns, and they were so authentic that people were coming out and they wore their lederhosen. The school children would wear their lederhosen and authentic hats and high socks. It took you back hundreds of years.
Did they think you were Austrian when they saw you dressed like that?
I doubt it.
No. Do you speak any German?
I don't. No.
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 So tell me, how did Vienna, first of all, come up on your radar, and how did you get there?
Well, first I had heard you mention Prague. You're going to Prague.
Mm-hmm.
I just love those type of old world cities. And my wife and I have kind of an affinity for some of those old world cities. And Vienna was one of her, on her bucket list. So that was at the top of her list. So it was a birthday for her. And we'd like to travel as much as we can. So we decided on Vienna probably about a year ago, and started planning it out. We wanted to end in Paris for her birthday because her parents are French, her mom's French, and but we went to Vienna. It was a direct flight from LA. I drove down there on a Saturday.
Which airline?
I don't.
Was it Austrian
recall.
Airlines? It wasn't Austrian Airlines.
It wasn't Austrian Airlines.
I don't think they fly that far. But
No.
a direct flight to Vienna.
A direct
That's
flight,
terrific.
and it was fabulous. I mean, a whole travel over 2 weeks, and then there was threats of boycotts on the trains and stuff throughout, but it was flawless. I've never been on a travel like that. So we arrived in Vienna the Sunday, right about noon. And there was a marathon going on, oddly enough, and it was a warm day, and kind of got our bearings a little bit. But I loved it.
So did you go out and have Sockertort, which is sort of the Viennese cake that's so famous?
No, not right away.
That's how you keep your svelte figure.
Well,
you don't need all those heavy calories.
Well, look at the picture. There's a beautiful cathedral there.
Yeah, so that's St. Stephen's Cathedral. That's the kind of the center of town. That's where how the whole town blossomed, built around the square. Lots of cathedrals, fabulous cathedrals, and that was St. Stephen's. So as we go through this, we're going to have lots of pictures to show.
Right. So do you recall the name of the place where you stayed when you were in Vienna?
It was right next to the Opera House. It
wasn't the Imperial Hotel?
No,
it
was a Starwood place.
Because I know the Imperial was there forever, and you feel like you're stepping back into kind of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and maybe your Franz Joseph's descendants there, because it does have that sense of old world, very much so there.
Oh, we got a great Starwood. We travel with Starwood on points a lot of times. We get some fantastic hotels around the world. But it was right next to the Opera House, and Vienna is life and
Known
culture.
for the music, the boys' choir of Vienna.
Yes.
All the
is part of the culture. So
Sure.
Did you see some musical performances?
Yes, we actually did. We wanted to go to the Opera House, and the tickets, we were too late to get anything formal. So we said, okay, let's take a tour of the Opera House, a formal tour. And on that tour, they said 80 minutes before a show, and they have shows every night during the opera season, that they'll release 300, 400, 500 standing room only tickets for like €3.
No way.
Yes. But so we were right there, so we got in line, and sure enough, we were able to get in, and we listened to Beethoven's Only Symphony in the Opera House of Austria, and it was just incredible. The acoustics in that Opera House were amazing. It was a great.
And was it
night.
a beautiful, grand vision of the interior decor?
Just as you'd imagine. It just elegant and classic, and interior, exterior were just magnificent, and the sound from the orchestra was amazing.
Wow.
We did have to stand for 3 hours, but it was well worth it.
And did you, when you went to the Lippenzig horses, did you see those?
I did,
Because
yes.
that's a
Thanks for
famous
bringing
thing
that
to
up.
see.
The white, beautiful.
Yeah, and they're so well trained.
And what a great facility. 500 years, I think, of horse training. Yeah, we got to see a practice one of the mornings, and it was neat to see.
Yeah.
Neat to see. They're prancing and dancing, and that was a nice thing to see in Vienna. I'd recommend that.
Now, how'd you get out to the Lake District from Vienna?
We took a car. Here's we go. That's getting to Salzburg. Before we got to Salzburg, we went to some of these little teeny cities in the Lake District. Lake Wolfgang was one of them. But we took car. It took most of the day to get out there. Beautiful drive through the Austrian country. We didn't make any plans that day. There's a great photo.
What is
you can go back to
That's
that
a
one.
lake?
Yes, that's one of our friends. So interesting story here. One of the reasons we wanted to go out to the lake districts in Austria is because our friends put their there's
Unbelievable. Look at the
there's
reflection.
Lake Wolfgang. That's
Did
from
you
our
take
porch.
that picture? Is that from a,
That looks like a postcard.
postcard?
That is from our morning porch. We woke up to that.
Wow,
my
what a
goodness.
beautiful thing to wake up to.
Absolutely
Jeez.
incredible, and the sounds and the clock towers. But one of the reasons we wanted to go out there is that one of our friends put their kids in the international school And so we went out and visited them for a day, and so that was the impetus of our trip into the Lake District, and it was well worth it. That felt like days and days. We were only there a couple days. But
What about the
like forever.
food? How was the food out there in the Lake District?
It was Wiener Schnitzel.
Oh, which I love a good wiener, don't you?
I think I ate Wiener Schnitzel for 3 or 4 days straight, and I don't need to have it anytime soon.
That's where they fry the beef in like or whatever, pork or sausage, anything, and they just it's like a chicken tender coating on it, but they usually pound it. It's very thin, right?
Correct.
And then it's delicious. That's what they're known for.
That's what they're known for, and the asparagus soup, a lot of asparagus, and a lot of Wiener
Because it was
Schnitzel.
in season, of course. Asparagus is
the
definitely
white
happening right now.
asparagus. So.
How about drinking? Anything good to drink?
Some beer, but nothing.
No,
You don't like the
nothing great.
Rieslings? No Rieslings
I
for
didn't
you?
get into the Austrian
You didn't
Rhines.
get-
No.
okay.
Had a few beers along the way. But.
And did you find you were getting good value for the dollar? Or was it very expensive in relative terms?
In relative terms, it was fair, I would say. It wasn't over the top, especially when you got out to some of the lake districts. It was 120 euro a night for, like that view right there was darn affordable.
Yeah.
And our place in Vienna we had done on point. So overall, it was a pretty affordable trip. And the food was fair. Nothing extraordinary, nothing.
Did you do any shopping? Buy
dirt
anything?
cheap. Well, I did, yeah.
What did you buy?
So I bought this jacket,
Yeah.
and it was one of the things that I got in the Lake District, and it's handmade, and you
Wow.
can see the beautiful colors on the inside as well.
That's
And this is basically a traditional Austrian dress. One of the days we were in the Lake District, it was a fascinating story. We heard the bells going off, and all of a sudden, all the townspeople start marching to church. Heading to the church, and they're all dressed. They have either this on, or their lederhosen, or their hats, or all the above. We're all, what is going on? And then a band comes, and they start filling the streets with people dressed to
like
the nines.
Fiesta in Santa Barbara.
But it turned out to be a funeral.
Oh. Well, it's nice to have a funeral that's upbeat, isn't it?
Yeah. And so everybody came out, and then they walked from the church to the cemetery in order. It was just wild to see. It was a kind of a little taste of
traditional.
the very
Sounds
traditional.
like a great destination. Erik, thank you for coming in today and sharing those adventures with us. 'Cause
Yeah.
Now I feel like going to Austria, don't you?
Oh,
Let's
yes.
get on the next direct flight and fly right to Vienna.
Absolutely.
And I like the jacket.
And I'm going to eat some
Thank you.
I'm
soccer
gonna get the
torte.
girl version of that.
Well, I can't believe it's already time to cool
Is
our
it?
jets,
I
as they
wanna-
say.
I wanna
Time has
keep
flown
going.
like this. I can't believe it. We've been all over the globe. Andy Steves took us to Andy Steves Europe in his new book. Laura Bashars took us camping with
Camping
her
and
book, The
cooking.
Camping and Cabin Cookbook. Also, we want to thank Max Hartshorne with GoNomad.com. Larry Stone, who was live in Hawaii and still alive and well. And, of course, Rebecca, a big thank you to you for being here. To our director, Michael Nicholson, who put it all together. And to Ken Baxter, who is now our editor-in-chief. We appreciate you all and all the good work you do here at TVSB. We'll catch you next time on Around the World. And in the meantime, happy trails.
Bye.